All right. I think we're in business.
We're live. Happy
Yeah.
2020, everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, Happy New Year. It's another year.
It's another year, and who knows what's in store for the hobby.
Who knows?
I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
But we're here.
We're here.
Hey, Vox, good to have you here. Happy New Year. And
Hey.
Eli, you're here too. Happy New Year to you.
Dark Angels are in store for the hobby.
Oh, yeah. Well, not too many Dark Angels because it's Forge World, but, well, I guess
Captain Timberlake's here too.
I guess GW's also releasing that one Dark Angel model. So I suppose it's more
true.
Dark Angels than is normally the case for Games Workshop. So yeah, Dark Angels Hour. I should be excited being a Dark Angel player, but I'm not really excited.
Yeah.
I'm not really excited.
That's not surprising.
I feel if I would get that new Primaris chapter or company master, I don't Lazarus or whatever they call him, I would only get it to do that conversion that Jake suggested.
Profundus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you find that?
I'm gonna see if I can find it.
That model is actually good. I forgot about that model.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Whereas, I guess today they released some Forge World, Dark Angels, something or other Terminator models. Those are not very good.
Yeah, I don't love them.
So yeah, I mean, I think the plastic Dark Angels is a good model. It's just, I feel his legs look a little odd though.
Mm-hmm. They're positioned weird, but at least he's not standing up on
His foot up on a rock, the classic GW pose.
They're so good.
Yeah, no, it's not that. So it's true. Here we go. Let me see if I can find this.
You still okay? Well.
All right, I think.
Yeah, Jake of X Profundus.
I think I just sent it.
Had a fairly humorous tweet about
because
that Dark Angels model.
The plastic Dark Angel model has a lot of options. And yeah, there we go. Bolter head. There it is. That's what, if I would get it, I would give him the bolter head he deserves.
I really don't. What is going on with his legs and his waist?
I feel he has this weird thing that it almost looks like he's slightly crouching. And because of that, it makes it look like his hand is, or his arm goes below his knees, which is slightly awkward.
Yeah, it's weird.
Eli's here too. He's talking about the ingenious design of the bolter.
Yeah, the ingenious bolter design. It's true.
I like him with the bolter for a head.
Yeah, it's classic design.
I mean, I think the model looks... Yeah, the model doesn't look bad at all. But yeah, I think something about the legs. I mean, maybe some other angles you'd be able to see a little bit more what's going on there, and it would be okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could see getting the model.
Is it a special release or some shit? How do you even get it?
That's not clear. Whenever Psychic Awakening, the next book, is released.
I think he is pulling a sassy arrest on one hip pose. That's probably true.
Could be.
Yeah, so what's Andrew Ray from Statuesque Miniatures, he had a tweet or an Instagram post about it saying it was there, or I don't remember exactly what he said, but their contrapposto pose, which I guess is it's a term for like how to describe somebody standing where they're putting most of their weight on a single foot, and then like the hip then is kind of angled a little bit, and like you can see at least based on the belt buckle thing that's kind of angled down
Yeah.
to imply that he is doing that, such that I think the backmost leg is straight and then the forward one is
Yeah.
bent a little bit. I think looking at different angles of the model would probably help.
Yeah, because I feel a lot of their GW's models are sort of like that. They look somewhat static, but if you see more of like more angles, they're more dynamic than they initially appear.
So
Often in the
dynamic.
sense that I kind of feel that the photographers, I mean, they take good photos, but it seems often that they don't get the golden angle that they talk about so often.
Either that or we just are looking too hard.
I mean, there's probably a bit of that.
We're not
Regardless, I
everything.
think this model looks pretty good. I am much more impressed with it than I expected from, or I didn't expect good out of the Dark Angels, I guess
I
I will
think
say.
I'm not sure if can you see the rest of the thread that Jake said there? Because I think he has some pictures of the model. Like I think the unhelmeted head I think looks cool.
It does. It's good looking.
So just for that I think it would be worth getting. Shit, I have to do it, guys. And I can use one of the Sister Battle bolters because they're slightly smaller. Things are coming
Yeah.
coming into place.
Well, so I guess related to that, Eric, you've been working on trimming and assembling some of the plastic Sisters of Battle. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts
so
on
I
them?
feel getting back, from holiday sort of things, it's been kind of hard to really get back to doing stuff, but as sort of an easy thing, I've just been trimming a few sisters and just gluing them together, kind of such that we would have some for more of like a size comparative sort of thing, not doing any conversions or anything. But and if I'm really gung ho about it, maybe I'll even try to paint them if I figure out an easy scheme. And it would be kind of nice to have a few painted, but at some point we're going to have to go back with some of the other models and actually make better bolters for them. But that's not for these. I mean, because the bolters themselves look pretty nice. They are smaller than the traditional bolter, and they have the charging handle for the bolters are actually it's like ambidextrous on both sides, which I thought was a nice touch.
They're so big.
But yeah, looking at the models, they're just ridiculously big.
Yeah,
And
I don't like them.
it makes it kind of hard to be too excited about them, unfortunately. Actually, I'm going to send in one being assembled that I think does a nice job emphasizing their gigantic size.
Oh my god. Look at that. Holy shit. Ugh. Yeah, I can't abide by that. Fuck.
Yeah, I kind of think it's just when you look at the models with the backpacks and all the other details and things, I think that sort of makes it harder to focus on the weapon itself, and it doesn't look as bad. But if you just look at it more in isolation, like look at the bolter's general size next to her hand holding the bolter and things like that, or next to the head, you realize that they are just so incredibly massive.
Like she's running into war holding a paddleboard.
But yeah, Captain Timberlake, I think the easiest thing to do, would just be to basically cut the top half off and make like a new barrel and that sort of thing. But you'd have to like replace the charging port, which, because unfortunately they didn't put that in line with the barrel for no sensible reason. But if that was in line with the barrel, you probably could just shave off the top and replace it because it would have been low enough. But unfortunately, they didn't do that.
I mean, what I would do is like, you can see kind of like the old classic bolter design. There's like the metal casing, and then there's like an in cut.
Yeah.
I would just, the bottom part of that, I would just cut everything above that off. And it would be really thin. Like there's the floor d'oreilles or whatever. Like, you could just keep the bottom 3 prongs of that, and then everything above that, just cut it all off.
Yeah. If you did that, it would be funny, though, that the magazine for the weapon would be thicker than the whole rifle itself, which I guess admittedly
changed.
Isn't that different from traditional rifles, I suppose.
I'm gonna see if I can.
But yeah, so overall, though, the models are nice and they're pretty nice to work with. It's just the other weapons are kind of out there.
Why don't we use that as a segue into the quality Marines that Captain Timberlake has been making? And I feel like with today there was, or was it today that they revealed those Dark Angel Terminator models that largely suck? And
they did, yeah.
And maybe a day ago, Captain Timberlake, you posted some pictures on Instagram of some Terminators that you've been making they're great. We should compare the newly revealed ones to the ones that Timberlake you've been making.
With that in mind, Timberlake, it would be nice, the pictures that are on Instagram, it's kind of hard to see the stuff you did on the bolters, but they look nice.
Well, let's go to the one picture with the bolters, with the Marines and the bolters.
Trying to find. They're the ones with the plasma weapons. Oh, here we go. This is better. One is a cool grenade launcher.
Yeah, so they're primarily like Primaris Marines, but just stuff replaced, and the one has a great looking bolter that basically just the top half is shaved down. And it makes it look a lot more like an auto gun. And I guess that's, yeah, so it looks like it was made from one of the Primaris bolt rifles, which, for as many of the questionable things that they did with those rifles, like put the magazine release in the wrong place such that they couldn't reach it, at least they put the charging port, like in line with the barrel, and that facilitated Captain Timberley's conversion work, allowing him to basically just cut off the top half of the bolter and add a new barrel and still have the charging port there.
I mean, why do you even need a charging bolt? Bolters probably don't need that, right?
Yeah, with their caseless ammunition, they just don't need it, right? Yeah. Ingenious design removes those questions. I mean, the bolt pistols don't have it.
So cool.
So yeah, I mean, you could certainly do that with the sisters as well. But I think in general, the bolt rifles, they made it slightly easier in that regard because they made that one more sensical choice of putting the charging handle lower. But it makes the Marine look a lot better. In the same way, just the one Marine that he made has a grenade launcher. I think one of the... Is that a Gene Sealer Cultist grenade launcher?
Or maybe one of the plastic guard ones.
It could be a plastic guard one too, which I think they're both basically the same. But that's also a little bit smaller. It's still a large weapon, but all of those look nice on the models because the Primaris Marines are a little bit bigger and the weapons don't completely dominate the model.
Well, so let's look at the newly revealed Dark Angels Terminators. Can we find a picture of them?
Yeah, so Forge World revealed some new Horus Heresy models, this working with the Dark Angels, and they are better than a lot of the more recent Dark Angel or Forge World models, but they still have many problems.
I don't know. The big thing is like that where their head's positioned like makes no sense.
Yeah, I think these models don't look miserable, but the fact that they still are using the terrible Terminator physiology makes it such that it's just not worth dealing with.
Like, holy shit. Like,
hey, Ward, Sylvania. And I think a good way to consider these new Dark Angel Terminators is a general sense that whenever making a model or like painting a model, the focal point should like always be the face or the head of the model, because that's where you get the personality of the model. And when looking at these Dark Angel models, these new Terminators, the heads are sort of recessed into their torsos, and they also have these sort of visors or whatever, such that when you look at the model, like you almost don't even see a head. It almost looks as though they don't have heads.
mm-hmm.
And that sort of emphasizes this weird problem of the models that the head isn't in the right spot. And I think the head was the right spot, was just up a little bit, honestly, closer to where the Iron Halo looking things are. The models would be kind of nice.
Their arms are attached too far from their body.
I like the open hand. The open hand on the one looks, at least from this picture, looks kind of good.
Mm-hmm. Their swords aren't even the most gigantic thing in the world.
What the fuck is going on with their like punch dagger plasma gauntlets?
It's just cool plasma shit. It's cool plasma shit, and they had to put a whole bunch of wings on there so you knew they were Dark Angels.
All right, so we've complained about them enough. Let's look at Captain Timberley's actual good Terminators.
Yeah, so again, the models, they were designed well enough. It's just Terminators look bad, so they by extension look bad. But yeah, Captain Timberley has been making some nice conversions, actually using some of the Primaris, what are they even called? The Terminator-ish.
I don't know what they're called.
Models, yeah. God.
No idea.
I don't know what they're called.
Like the one with like the heavier armor.
Are they called aggressors? I think they might be called aggressors. The Primaris aggressors, the heavier armored ones that were revealed right when the Primaris models were revealed. But he took some of those and then sort of spliced the top half of a traditional Terminator on there, and then just put a Terminator helmet just where the helmet would naturally be. And because of that,
well, don't they have? So the aggressors are the ones with the bolt guns built into their power fists, but that same basic armor type, wasn't that same armor type used on like the one Captain model that came in one of the first?
Gravis armor. Gravis
yeah,
armor.
it's Gravis armor, but the first ones that were released were called aggressors. But they have a particular modified version of that Gravis armor.
But the Gravis armor, every time I read that, I thought of the word gravid, meaning like pregnant or carrying young. And
when they do kind of look somewhat awkward with their big fat bellies because
they're
it's
pregnant.
so armored there. Yeah. But regardless of what you thought about that heavier Primaris armor, at least there was some semblance of anatomy there.
Yeah.
And by using that and just layering on some classic Terminator elements, it largely alleviates the awkwardness of the traditional Terminator.
All right, everybody has jumped to our help. It is indeed the Gravis armor. The Gravid armor.
Yeah, the Gravid armor. Well, I think in the Shadow Spear box, there's another modification of that aggressor armor, and they're holding the autocannons. I think. Because the original Gravis armor variations they would kind of float around, and they had those gigantic heavy bolter pistol things.
Oh, they were
and
awful.
Then they released a multi-part box that had gigantic plasma weapon pistols.
They're horrible. So
yeah.
Vox says Primaris reproduced via their aggressors. It was Cole's greatest achievement. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Hey, Dave. Nice to see you here as well. Happy New Year to you also.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, so I guess regardless, good job, Captain Timberley, for kind of seeing the value of those aggressor models and putting them to work to make something, kind of make the Terminators that I think people have sort of wanted for a while. Because it seems like just a matter of time before Games Workshop releases a new Terminator equivalent of the Primaris.
Yeah.
Has to happen, I think. But until that point, I think a conversion of this nature using those is probably the easiest way to maybe make Terminators that don't look egregiously bad, other than maybe using Abaddon, I guess Abaddon's how it's said, rather than using that.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some other word that means pregnant that could be somewhat modified to be the name of the new Primaris Terminator variant.
Maybe.
Probably.
We'll have to think on it.
Yeah, so I think you're right in the sense that the aggressors were kind of an effort to make a Terminator-like unit, but the fact that it's like Terminators that fly, I still kind of feel eventually they will make an even heavier armored thing.
They will.
Tactical Dreadnought Armor 2 or whatever. But I don't know.
I think they will. So yeah, the new Dark Angels, meh. They're better than the Blood Angels. They're still bad. The jest.
In some sense, they all, to me, and I guess we should stop.
Yeah, we're done. We've
complaining
said so
about
much.
But it looks like as though someone like, I sculpted a kind of nice Dark Angels symbol. I'm going to make a low quality press mold of it and make a bunch of really thick, gaudy looking press molds of this symbol and then just tack them on places.
That's what it looks like. It's true.
I mean, and admittedly, it would be hard, particularly with resin and such. It would be hard to get some of those details that much finer, but I think it would have been better if they just didn't have them.
The one Dark Angels dude with the actual not helmet, the face, it looks like he's running and trying to hand his sword to you. It looks like he's handing it off.
Yeah,
passing the baton.
Yeah.
Well, he's passing the baton to the next generation. Actually, in the subject of continuing talking about Dark Angels, the new plastic company master that we talked about briefly before, he's the first Primaris that became a member of the Inner Circle, so that's cool. The Primaris have entered the Dark Angels Inner Circle and know the secrets of the Fallen. So I don't know if there's background material that talks about that and suggesting that that was a big deal or not. It seems like it would be a big deal.
Well, is it just maybe it was someone who was a normal Marine from the Inner Circle who was turned into a Primaris?
It could have been that. I didn't read any of them.
Are there maybe fierce lore battles about that on Reddit somewhere?
Probably.
There could be.
Oh, Vox, the Jestinators. That's a good one. That's good. Really good. All right, let's stop talking about that shit and move on to talking about other stuff. The new Sisters of Battle models. Is that what we're going to talk about?
We can.
I mean, I guess in general, Warhammer Fest. Was it Warhammer Fest? Had like a New Year's Day, or it wasn't even New Year's, but a New Year's thing.
Was this? Did I find the right post? I think so.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And so they revealed a few things. They showed us that the Warcry models they revealed before are coming, which is good, I suppose.
We already talked about them. Let's not talk about them.
We won't. They also showed a new Beastgrave warband that
I don't really like.
Has bad-looking Noblars.
Yeah, they look really bad. The old ones were so good. These
which is sort of surprising because in general, the Noblars and just goblins in general have been great. Like there was some fairly nice-looking Noblars in that Blood Bowl Ogre team. And just the regular Blood Bowl Goblin team, all the new Night Goblins.
All right, let's stop talking about that. They look bad.
Yeah, they're bad.
So that's kind of a disappointment. But Sisters of Battle, more Sisters of Battle, hooray.
Yeah, they showed some more pictures of the heavy weapon squad. And then later, maybe today or yesterday, they showed some more pictures of some of the
sprues.
Some of the sprues, not all of them, presumably, but these
not enough to really
good.
get any information. Yeah, so the Retributors, the ones with the heavy weapons. Yeah, I feel they don't look too bad. Kind of look, unfortunately, just looking at this particular picture of the Retributors, it kind of looks like they only have two sets of legs other than the Sergeant.
Yeah, maybe.
They're a
Those
little
are
different.
pretty wide stances, but they actually make sense given what they're holding.
Yeah, they make
Yeah,
more
so that
sense than-
is nice.
I like the little iron halo thing too on the leader.
I feel the heavy weapons look nice enough. I mean, they're huge, but I feel like is the standard thing I feel we've been saying now about this is a battle. I feel it would be neat to see their weapons on like Primaris Marines. Like I think their heavy weapons would maybe look okay on a Primaris Marine.
They need to fill in the seams between when they glue two plastic halves together. They look bad.
Yeah, they didn't make much of an attempt to do it on this multi-melta.
Yeah. They showed some other pictures of like the Seraphim, and I don't know. These ones don't look as. Or are these the Seraphim? Or are these like? Are these?
There's
something
another.
else,
There's
like
another
a,
squad type that's not called Seraphim, but
like
are the close combat variant. I don't know what they're called, but
they look a little wonky.
It seems almost as though they have their jump packs are a little different and have an extra bit of spiked detail.
Extra detail.
Which seems like something that, or I wouldn't want to use.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't really like them very much. They're
Still
okay.
look fine.
Their poses are really weird, but whatever.
Jetpacking around with that banner would be a challenge.
Yeah. But probably what's most exciting is they showed some more pictures of some of the newer multi-part arcoflagellants, and they look great.
Zephyrim, is that a joke, Fox?
That's not a joke. That's what they're called.
Oh my god.
Are you kidding me? Holy shit.
That's what they're called.
Well, it's not that terrible, but it still kind of seems like it could be a joke.
Death Watch kill teams.
But so
Yeah,
the
I mean,
arcoflagellants look good.
But Eric's right there. Like, the GW's names have not always been good. The notion that they call them the Death Watch kill team, that's a lot of killing and death in that name.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
like the Blood Angels Death Company. Boy, that's cool. They had to get enough cool sounding shit in there to excite any teenage boy.
Yeah,
Led
that's right.
Zephyrim. Oh boy, man. Eli, if I could play an instrument, like we could start a band called Led Zephyrim. Well, I guess I wouldn't even need to play well. Led Zephyrim.
That's so good.
Zephyrim.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, so the multi-part arcoflagellants, they look good. One of them's Damien from the Inquisitor rulebook.
1427. Yeah, so that's nice that it's a nice little nod. And even in the Codex book they mention him. They have a little aside and talk about him. So I thought that was kind of fun.
I wonder if they have multiple little like numbered tags so you don't have any that are the same. You know?
It looks like they have a lot.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it might just be a ton of different heads.
Yeah. They're fun. One thing that I think is interesting, I wonder, do you think they'll have any other options for their arms? Some that are like buzzsaws or anything? Or are they all just the whips?
Yeah, it would be really neat if they had some other weapon types. I mean, I like the whips well enough, but in the codex itself, the entry does mention that they don't always have whips. So it would be neat if, they had like some chain blades or buzzsaws or something and for one reason, just such that they wouldn't just all break off. Because I feel these models are just asking to get broken.
Yeah, they are.
Vox Execution Force, the name of the game that they originally released was not just called Execution Force. It was like Assassinorium or Assassinorum
Yeah, it
or
was.
something. So like Execution Force wasn't enough.
No, it's not enough.
Yeah, but I like the arcoflagellants, and it'll be neat to see some of the sprues and whatnot to see what other options are there, and if we're lucky, there'll be other weapon types too.
In the Codex, they are all electroflails.
I'm pretty sure I read, and I thought I just read it, and it said there were others, but maybe I read it wrong.
They also showed some pictures of the pennant engines, and they're fine.
Somewhere there was a picture. Maybe it was from the video, but there's the one with the guns. There's one with like a fuller sarcophagi.
Yeah, it's neat. I like it.
That probably looks the best.
I think it looks the best.
Because these are pretty awkward looking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Vox, you mentioned that you checked in the codex and their one option is arcoflails. Yeah, I don't doubt that the rules suggest they're only flails, but I thought in the bestiary sort of description of the units, I thought they mentioned other things. So let me see if I can even find it here. I have this codex over here, which I guess the actual codex is finally going to be released soon. So that's something such that people could actually get that.
Well, let's look at that statue.
Looks okay.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. It's like Sister of Battle with Sister of Battle armor top and silk dress bottom.
Mm-hmm. Not and like her arms don't have armor.
Yeah. Sister of a Battle bodice and silk dress bottom.
Okay, so hacking and slashing with cyber implanted flails, mattocks, and cleavers, they fight on dementedly until there is nothing left of their foes but a pile of mutilated corpses.
Well,
so it kind of suggests there could be other things.
Yeah, okay.
But no rules, no models.
Yeah.
That tends to be Games Workshop's stance on things nowadays, so.
Well,
So you mentioned that the statue there looks kind of nice. Looking at it, to me, I think the funniest thing, the only thing taller than that statue is the new procession of St. Catherine's.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
I mean, it's not actually that tall, I doubt, but that special character with the funeral procession of St. Catherine, because of all the little cherubs and such, it is so tall.
People are going to be using the little cherubs everywhere.
It's obvious. It's not like it's bad looking. Like the cherubs look nice, but that would be so hard to transport or do anything with. But I'm sure you could remove some of them.
I think this release will be great. Like all the rogue sisters look really good.
The one in the front with maybe it's St. Catherine's sword or whatever, that sword is so huge.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking there. Like, holy shit. Like, it is literally taller than she is, I think.
I mean, they couldn't have really made it much thinner in the subject of being plastic and such, but it
Yeah.
just looks awkward, man, because of that. But yeah, the robed sisters themselves, I think, look really neat, and I think a lot of people will, or at least want to use them in like Ink 28 conversions and that sort of thing. Although I think it costs like 110 US dollars, so I could see maybe not that many people rushing out to get it,
Mm-hmm.
but they want to rush out to get
Yeah,
it.
they're cool.
But it's interesting based on the rules, like the procession I think is like 6 canonesses of the major Sisters of Battle orders, like our Martyred Lady and all the other ones, each of which has some special relic that as the unit takes wounds, they slowly start to die and the relics get lost.
Hmm.
So that's something.
It's
The
interesting.
little cherub at the top holding the fleur de lis looks
There's a
kind of neat.
gas mask of sorts.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the things that I think we should talk about is in one of these posts they show unique Sister of Battle dice, and holy shit, these are bad looking. I mean, they're kind of cool looking, but
Visually they look cool, but in terms of having a useful die to roll and use,
they're close to unusable. Like you actually have to physically spend time and try and figure out what each side represents, I think.
yeah, so for most of the sides of the die, you count the number of fleur de lis to determine what the roll is, except for the 6. The 6 is a single fleur de lis.
No,
And
I think that's one.
That's the one. The one with the iron haloed skull is the 6.
Because
You
there are 5 points of the halo maybe, and then the skull is the 6. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, well, so regardless, it's kind of an awkward thing where you have to make that judgment, and then.
Well, to make it clear, you could take some paint and paint a 6 over top of the iron haloed skull side to really make it clear.
It's kind of sad because I kind of like the look of them, but I don't know.
Actually, sorry, Dave, you were saying those feet, is that Frodo's sister? Which model are you talking about?
The statue, I assume.
Okay.
With the biggest feet.
I mean, yeah.
That's a GW model, though.
That's a GW hallmark. If they don't have massive feet, like, holy shit, what's
not a
going
GW model. Although, normally, though, the GW models, they have, like, armored boots or whatever, such that you could try to convince yourself that the armor is really thick or this and that, such that the feet were maybe not gigantic, but.
So getting back to these terrible looking dice, these kind of reminded me that for I feel for years now, Games Workshop has been releasing novelty dice for different armies that have been like really fucking bad. And I think now I'm almost kicking myself that I didn't buy some of them because of how bad they are. Because like I think it would be just a riot to like bring some of these awful dice to a gaming event and then like you couldn't play because of it.
Yeah, actually, Kirioth, he's like a YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
He has a pretty funny YouTube video that he recently posted kind of talking about the dice and some of the
pleading with Games Workshop to stop making.
Well, because it's funny because like Forge World had made a series of Horus Heresy dice for all the different legions and then stopped making them that were really nice. They were just a different various colors kind of associated with the Legion, and the 6 was the sigil of the chapter, and that was it. The other side just had like the pips on it, so they were very easy to read. And if you saw the logo of the chapter in question, it's like, yeah, Alpha Legion 6. They don't need to go this high concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the dice that they've tried to be super high concept with weird symbols and such, or end up being the worst because they're just like not easy to use. And some of them have been like rubbery, like squig dice and whatnot, which look kind of cool, but then they don't roll very well. Or
Yeah, they're bad. They're really bad.
so yeah, it's just a weird thing. Like what they're, I guess.
How much do they cost usually?
I don't.
$25 probably.
$25 to $30 would be my guess.
Well, how many do you get in a set?
10, I would guess, or 8.
Because I mean, the Necromunda dice.
Certainly not how many are listed, like are on this picture.
Probably not. Like all the Necromunda dice are cool, but you only get like 8 dice in one of the little things, and more than half of them are not just your traditional D6. It's like the munitions dice and whatever the fuck those are called.
Yeah, like the ammo dice, the injury die.
Yeah.
And
But okay.
yeah,
We've belabored this. These ones you can sort of tell what's going on for some of them, but based on the size and how well or how poorly the printing and stuff is, they'll be really hard to use.
I kind of like them.
Yeah. I kind of want to get some of the bad guys.
And I feel these ones aren't as hard to read as some of the ones they've made.
They
But yeah,
recently
I guess,
also showed a post for the Sisters of Battle where they've shown, for the different squads, they showed pictures of the sprues.
yeah, and the main sculptor behind them, and Ben Jefferson, who's one of kind of the lead designers, talk a little bit about it, which was nice. And yeah, and they show some of the sprues, but unfortunately, they only like show one sprue from each the Retributor kit and the regular plastic kit, which clearly is not all you're going to get in these boxes. And I imagine some people saw this and then got worried, like, oh no, there aren't options. But I feel, certainly for the regular Sisters kit, I assume there are at least 3 sprues, if not more. Because like the single sprue they showed you here looks like maybe there are 3 sisters on there.
Yeah, I think it's
so. Like clearly they have more stuff's going to be included there. But even in the sprue they did show here, you can see that there's at least a flamethrower, maybe even 2 storm bolters. Oh heck, yeah, it's 2 flamethrowers are on there, 2 storm bolters, 2 melt-a-guns. So I mean that's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, so I feel they've at least tried to give you a lot of different options.
And it looks like there are a lot of different head options as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I don't know, I feel the post is a little curious that they're trying to show like, hey, we showed pictures of the models, but let's show you the sprues. But then they don't show you enough of the sprues to really glean any useful information other than potentially be worried that there won't be more. Yeah, but I guess this Saturday they're going to put up pictures of it when they go for pre-order, so I suppose it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all of the sprues because, like, for some of them, like, for instance, this last Sister of Battle pulling the pin out of the grenade with her teeth, her, like, body, she doesn't have the standard, like, boob plate armor, and I think this looks a lot better. I'm hoping they have several options like this in each of the sets because I think they look better. But we'll see. We'll see.
Vox mentioned the Sylvaneth dice. I think
they're fucking horrible.
A picture in there, and
well, so actually, let's look at these. Like, can we even figure out? So this one
looks like they changed. Looks like they've changed the color of the dice, but that doesn't actually really mean anything.
You count the number of leaves on the tree branches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's a swirl, which I guess is probably the 6.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess.
All with the same swirl as the 1. But then it's kind of also...
Which is... Wait a minute.
No.
1 is the swirl. What's the swirl? A 1?
I think that's a 6, because there's the skull with the swirl, which is probably... You don't want to see the skull.
Yeah.
That's true.
But then it's awkward that it looks like they've changed the face, the color the stuff's painted.
Oh my god.
Because sometimes the swirl is different colors, and I think all the different painting sort of stuff just makes it a really awkward experience that it's like harder to read. And I think that's
so
just the
good.
name of it. Like, when you get these dice, at the end of the day, they're still dice. Like, if you want to use them, you don't want to struggle with reading what results you're getting.
They're so good.
Furthermore, you certainly don't want to have your opponent or whatever think that, like, oh, but I thought you said this was the 6, or any sort of thing like that. So,
God, I fucking wish I paid more attention to when these came out. It's fun. If I actually had looked at them, I would have purchased them. They're so bad.
I mean, yeah, they do look bad, and like, so they're brown, and then some of them have like the green paint on them, which you can't really see.
They're so bad. I love it.
Yeah. Captain Timberley mentions here that Games Workshop had suggested before that there were torso options for like the boo plate and non-boo plate. And that's another thing that by showing only one of the sprues, like it looked like you don't really know. But based on that, it certainly doesn't look like you really have much of an option. I mean, my guess is there will probably be some with and without the boob plate, but I doubt you could choose to make all of them without it, which is kind of a shame.
But not unexpected.
Yeah, not really unexpected.
So actually, let's look at this. So they have a picture of the sisters with the heavy weapons fighting against some like Alpha Legion Marines, and these are, I guess, the newer plastic Marines. Is that right?
They are, I believe.
It's funny because they're like the same size, if not smaller. The Marines.
I mean, like, sure, their feet and hands and stuff are smaller, but then again, they're wearing almost like leather gloves and form-fitting stuff, whereas the Space Marines, obviously, their feet are not the size of their actual feet because they have that sort of flared bell-bottom look to them. So yeah, they're surprisingly similar in size, which I mean makes sense. Like they're normal human females next to 10,000-year-old superhumans. It makes sense that they would be roughly the same size.
Well, I mean, as they get older, they start to get smaller and smaller, and they have to recraft their armor every decade or so and make it.
The warp does that to you, right? It's a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
The bore on we talk about the heavy bolter, the bores of them a lot, but it's the bore of that is practically the size of a Space Marine's head.
Well, actually, I wonder, can you tell in the Oh shit. Yeah, so if we look at the sprue for the heavy bolter, so that they don't even give you a choice. The barrel's already drilled for you. So I feel if you got these, you would just have to replace the barrel on the heavy bolter. It's too bad. It's too visually offensive, particularly when they show you the size of the rounds being fed into the weapon, and it looks like you could probably fit maybe around 6 of them in the bore of the weapon or something. It's bad.
That's pretty cool.
It's really bad.
Lifeboats here. Yeah, those dice lifeboat. Most of the faces have like images of little twigs, and you have to count the number of leaves on them to get the number that you rolled.
He suggests they look like Gungan looking dice.
Yeah.
Jar Jar Binks would love them.
Yeah, he'd be proud.
Well, I want them. I want them. I want to try and find them. I can then bring them to the next gaming event.
Struggle with them. Struggle to have a good time.
Yeah.
One thing though about this sprue for the Retributors, it does show there are a lot of different hit options just on this single sprue. So that's encouraging. So hopefully that means that when we see the rest of the sprues, there will be more kind of torso options and that sort of thing.
Friends, I think I want to go to bed.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
we've been.
You can all keep
Been
talking.
droning on about these.
But I ideally want to get up early.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Greg.
Yeah, have fun, everybody.
Well, is anyone in the chat particularly excited about any of these new models, like the Sisters here, or
the new Dark Angels?
About things? Yeah,
I know Eric's excited about them.
Or have kind of things they'd like to do with them.
I know Eric's been talking about the new Dark Angels all day. Just won't stop.
You're pretty excited.
I'm probably most excited about the Procession of the Saint. They'll be great for all manner of Ink 28 conversions. We should probably try and how long will it take for Instagram to be flooded with conversions from the Saint model?
I don't know. The fact that it costs like $110, I think that's a pretty debilitating price point.
It's true. That will make it much harder, but I feel it'll be quick. It'll be really quick.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, do we know when they're going up for pre-order? They haven't mentioned that yet, right?
St. Catherine's going up this week.
Is it actually this week? Oh, damn.
Pretty sure.
Fuck. Conversion corner post. Here we come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about. Yes, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like, I guess now Games Workshop's much more apt to, like, when they release like a new army, they like literally release like all of it, like within
pretty quickly.
A week or two. So. Fox says I give Requiem 82 or Cornell one day. Colonel. Yeah, I mean, just depends on if they like get the models or not. It won't take long. And I feel for a lot of them, since they're so heavily rogued and stuff, like you really wouldn't have to do a whole lot. Like most of their weapons and stuff could probably be or would be hidden beneath all of their robes.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
I guess I didn't talk about this earlier, but I've recently started chopping up some of the new, what are they even fucking called? The Aussie Bone Reapers. I've
Mm-hmm.
been playing around with trying to figure out how to make an Eldar from one of the models. Um, I feel probably next week I'll show some pictures. Um, but the one thing I'll say about the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, at least the standard squad, they are super squat. Like, so I feel it'll require some work to make them look slender and Eldar like, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. Actually, what is Dave? Dave says, I was thinking about converting lower sister and upper space brain. The bell bottom legs are too. Yeah, I mean,
They are super fat. I guess, I mean, some people might argue that that's such an iconic element of the Space Marine, but I feel do what you want, and I'm sure it will look nice. It'll look cool.
yeah, I mean, tons of people have made like true scale space marines out of like the Age of Sigmar. Um,
Yeah, the Sigmarines, and they
yeah, the
look
Sigmarines,
nice.
and they look convincing.
Mm-hmm.
Vic is in right now. Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, so hopefully next week I'll show some pictures of what I'm kicking around with the Aussie Archbone Reapers. But
I'm looking more at one of these Sisters of Battle Bolters, and I kind of feel like cutting the top half of it off.
you can do it, man.
I might do it.
You can do it.
I might do it.
Um,
If I do, then it'll make me feel like I should tear off the other ones. Well,
Actually,
we'll
so
see.
I'll show you the one picture of the work in progress thing that I've only just started with the Eldar model. Here's a little picture. I've done a little bit of sculpting, and with in paint, I started in red, kind of sketching out where different visual elements and stuff would be. Um, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
a long way from anything that I call finished. Um, and ideally, I'll make it look like they're kind of like tall and vaguely thin. But like I've just been spending some time looking at like the Dark Eldar models, and man, they're pretty weird looking. Like they have the broadest shoulders like you've ever seen, and the
Super
thinnest
thin.
waists you've
Yeah,
ever seen.
that's the alien physiology, though.
Yeah,
They don't look like that in the artwork, but that's
no, they
another
don't.
story. Right,
No, they
that's
don't.
another story.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's kind of fun to just be playing around with the plastic stuff and seeing what you
Mm-hmm.
can make from it. But
Yeah,
if you look at the Bone Reaper models, the standard infantry, like they suffer from kind of the Space Marine anatomy. Like they don't have an abdomen.
just really stocky and short.
Actually,
But they're
Captain,
crafted from bone.
yeah, so it doesn't matter what they look like. Captain Timberley says something. Getting off topic here. I just got my first oil paints yesterday and I want to play around with it today. Does anyone have some tips for me?
One
So,
thing, what sort of oil paints are they? Are they traditional, like canvas painting oil paints? If they're those, I know some people will try to do something to get rid of some of the linseed oil that are in with the paints, because that slows the drying time tremendously. If they're like ones that are more for miniature modeling, they're like they dry a little bit quicker but are still slower. But yeah, Eli here suggests maybe not using your good brushes, and I would say that is true.
So I've used some oil paints a little. You certainly need to make sure you have some form of like a thinner, because otherwise, like, that's what you're going to use to kind of make the different blends and whatnot. Like the oil paints, in some regards, I find they're pretty easy to get pretty nice looking blends and mixtures of colors. Um, so long as you have some form of like thinner to do that.
You can often just sort of like apply some of it to different areas of the model, even if it's relatively thick, sort of pasty like. But then with a brush with thinner on it, you can kind of pull it around and kind of get most of it off and make streaks and things like that.
It might be the type of thing where if you have like a piece of plastic art or something, you could just dab a little bit of the different colors on the plastic art and just kind of play around with that to get a sense of how the stuff works, because it is pretty different from your standard like acrylic paints.
Let me see if I can find something here.
Good thing I have a single good brush. Oh no. Well, I mean, all you have to do is go to a GW and buy one of their brushes, use it 1 or 2 times, and it'll be ruined regardless of what paint you're using. So, like, that would be a good good way to get your brush. Yeah, so they work pretty similar to enamels. It's just how you apply them can sometimes be a little different.
I don't know. I think I just put a link in the chat if you're on Twitch. This is not quite, or I guess it's Mig Jimenez from like Ammo of Mig. Yeah, this is a video of how he talks about how to use his oil brusher line of paints, which are essentially just oil paints in a little screw cap thing such that they're easier to apply. But the video itself is kind of nice, and the fact that it kind of tells you how you could kind of go about using certain oils and then use some sort of like white spirits or odorless thinner to kind of work at it and get the effects you want. And you should be able to largely do the same thing with just the traditional oil paints and just using like a brush to apply it and then another brush to thin it and make the transitions and such.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, hopefully you have fun with the oil paints. Like, I think they can work pretty well. Like, I have a whole mess of them, but I've not used them too much. Like, I used a bunch of them on the Elder One model that I made and painted years ago.
I guess another thing that you can do kind of like a pin wash, which is essentially if you just take various oil paints and put like a bunch of like little dots of oil paints all around on, like, let's say a flat surface of armor or whatnot, and then just use thinner, oilless or odorless thinner and essentially just brush the majority of it off, and it kind of applies almost like a filter or a wash to the surface. And if you used enough of different colors, it kind of just has a nice sort of tonal variation in the color.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's something, yeah. And it ultimately, if you've worked with some enamels, some like the streaking products and whatnot, they're not that different.
Yeah, no, I agree. They also work, even if you just want to largely paint a model with your standard acrylics and stuff. I found a lot of the different oils and stuff work really well for adding like weathering and stuff over top of like what you've already painted. Because then also if you're not super happy with how something turns out, you can largely pretty easily remove the majority of it with like a thinner or something. Which that can be harder to do if you're trying to like paint on like acrylic dirt and other grime and stuff. Like it's pretty easy to overdo it, and then there's not an easy way to remove that. So I've certainly done a bunch of that now. I think oils are often like my go-to if I want to add other like grime and dirt and stuff to models. But yeah, again, it's just another thing you have to experiment with.
I mean, like enamels, ultimately, what's sort of nice about them is that they do dry relatively slowly, such that you can always kind of go back and work on it to reduce the effect if you think it's too drastic. Whereas obviously like acrylic wash, like Nuln Oil or something like that, it dries so quickly that if you get some sort of like the coffee staining or pooling, like there's nothing really you can do about it. Whereas the oils are nice that you don't have to worry about that. Or at least not nearly as much.
Yeah, actually.
But having said all this, I am certainly not an expert in using any of that sort of stuff, so or an expert in any sort of painting for that matter.
So let me actually try and find.
But if you do, and that's another thing, that if you are kind of interested in using oil paints for miniatures, just looking on YouTube is pretty helpful, particularly looking at scale modeling, because a lot of people painting scale tanks and things like that, I feel, have been using oil paints to paint miniatures, I feel, a lot longer than most traditional miniature, like 40K players. So
Yeah, so for this like Black Templar I painted a while ago, a lot of the like dirt and grime and stuff on that was all done with like oils and enamels and stuff. And it can be pretty easy to like get kind of a pretty convincing and nice looking weathering and stuff on things. So that's would be the easiest thing to try and do at least initially. Oh man, he's huge. But yeah,
I think I would have to look at it, but I think sometimes people will, if it's like a traditional oil paint, like you said, you have, sometimes they will just like squeeze out a small amount of it onto like a paper towel or whatnot. And then often some of the linseed oil that's in there kind of gets wicked out from the paint. And then you can just take a portion of that and maybe dilute it a little bit in like an oilless thinner or something like that, such that then it won't take quite as long to dry, because it got rid of some of the linseed oil that's in there. But yeah, I would just experiment with it. And I'm sure you'll get pretty good results.
Yeah. Oh shit! This is a funny one here. This is a good us making fun of like the bolter, Space Marine bolters and stuff. This is a good example of like how much you could like cut away from a bolter, and yeah, like how much empty space is in the bolters, and, like the Sister of Battle bolters, like you could literally cut away like more than half of the top of the weapon, replace the barrel, and it would look much better.
But it wouldn't have the classic bolter image, Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it still pretty much could. Oh yeah, here's and this was the little Marine, where I sort of tried doing that when the Primaris Marines came out a while ago. And like I feel the little one you had made, Captain Timbo, you cut away even more at the top of the weapon, and I feel that works even better. Like the more you cut away, the better. Because fuck, they're huge.
They sure are. They sure are.
But yeah, the bolter, like, I mean, you kind of question like, what the fuck is in there? Like, what? Like,
Nothing.
maybe like the magazines for bolters, they're so small, like, and the rounds are so big, there's no room to fit any rounds in the magazine. Maybe they're cleverly extra rounds are stored within that extra space. Like
You're
maybe
overthinking
that's
it. None of that's true.
maybe I think that's probably what it's doing. I've forgotten this image. You even took off the stock. Like that's good.
Yeah, stock's not there.
Fuck. So good. I love it. Love it. Yeah, all that fucking extra space. It's like just imagine like if it has all that extra space there, like if you were actually holding it, if you're actually holding it, like it would just be
Cumbersome.
so cumbersome. Like just think if you've ever had to like hold like a 2x4 a large board or something, like it's not easy to move around with. So like you just you'd never do it. Well, Space Marines would because they don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh God, Space Marines.
Yeah, well,
Love
it's the best.
them.
Yeah, Vox is right. It's a lot bigger than a 2x4. A lot.
True. Oh.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we should call it.
If you look at the Sister Battles Brew, there is one of those combi bolters there. The bolter part is basically a normal rifle. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's true, and that's
true.
even true like with like a lot of the Space Marine combi bolters. Like yeah,
Where you glue the top part on.
yeah, I've often thought about using one of the Space Marine combi bolters because they reposition the barrel to be lower to fit the other fucking bullshit at the top.
And yeah, so if that works, why? Yeah, that's Games Workshop tacitly agreeing that
they're
like
designed
70% of the bolter is useless bullshit.
Yeah, so that would actually be probably the easiest thing to do to really quickly just show people how the weapon should be changed. So when this is released, I should just quickly get it, take that bolter, the combi bolter, um, rework the top of it to give it working front and rear sights, and then maybe like a collapsible stalk, and like you've done it, you're there. But yeah, that's a good example where even Games Workshop are kind of trying to show you that it doesn't need to have all that other shit.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. It's great. All right, yeah, I guess we should probably end the stream. Like I have to be up for work in a few hours, so.
Yeah,
And I
unfortunately.
think there's snow outside, so there's a chance the roads tomorrow aren't going to be great. So would be better if I was well rested.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nice talking to everyone. Thanks for joining us again. It's been a little while since our last stream, so we appreciate you all coming out and chatting with
Yeah.
us.
Happy 2020.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll talk to you again soon. Have fun
Yep.
with the hobby. Keep on working and stuff. Um, yeah. And if you have any other questions or anything, don't hesitate to send us an email or contact us on Instagram or whatnot. Until then,
Yeah. See you, everybody.